So hi everyone, while we wait for some other guests to join the session today, just wanted to remind everybody of the housekeeping rules of the day. If you can just mute your mic and so that you can just listen to the two amazing panelists that we have in the session today. Also, if you can turn on the cameras, that would be great so that we also get to see who you are. Just behind, let's just say, also get to know you a bit better. If you have any questions throughout this session, feel free to send it to Social Business directly, or so you can put it in the group chat, whatever that works best for you. So you also have the remaining time, let's just say towards the end of the session, for you to ask any questions. I think we can probably get it started. Let's just say maybe it's probably a good time for us to start. Perhaps I will just start with my name and then also introduce our panelists. So my name is Sol Park. I'm the Global Investment and Portfolio Director at Social Business. Social Business, we are an impact-first investor. We operate in 5 different countries that are Brazil, Colombia, India, Kenya, and Uganda. And what we define as social business will be the businesses who have the intentionality to create the social impact or environmental impact. And it's just all those 5 countries, we invest in more of an early stage or growth stage of the companies who have the, who are working, who has an entrepreneur who work really hard to solve the world's most challenging problems. And I'm very lucky to have 2 panelists who are joining us today. So first panelist you will see will be Vicente, who is the founder and CEO of Clearpath, and Ricardo, COO at Arabica Coffee. So I guess perhaps we can just start talking about what is today's agenda about. It's about, where's your morning cup of coffee comes from. From my side, I think whenever I'm an avid coffee drinker, I personally don't think I ever really knew where the coffee bean came from other than the country of origin that I'll buy from. Typically says Colombia, Brazil, Ethiopia, all those well-known countries that produce coffee beans. But I don't think I ever thought about, let's just say, deep dive into who are the producers of coffee beans. I think I put a lot of emphasis on, let's just say, the taste of the coffee, how much I pay, how much I enjoy. It was never about the person who can actually grow the beans, put the efforts and times in it. I have also worked in commodities myself, worked in the cocoa industry, where I've seen how the value chain has been quite, let's just say, distorted to a certain extent, because smallholder farmers, who are the very producers of your coffee beans, only get a very small fraction of the bigger pie that we actually also spend a lot of money on. So today's session, we really want to bring the 2 amazing panelists who are changing the narrative to really bring the good quality coffee bean, also to change the livelihoods of the smallholder farmers. So please welcome Vicente and Ricardo to the session today. First, I also talked briefly about YSB, but I would like to invite 2 panelists to also share with us, what is the Clearpath Coffee doing? What is Clearpath all about? What does Ali Coffee do? First, should we start with Vicente then?
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sol. Happy to be here, and I'm happy to see everyone that is joining us today. Well, Clearpath Coffee is a company that started in 2015 with the idea of connecting roasters with coffee producers and help them develop a relationship. We wanted to be a partner for producers and develop a model that we call co-exporting. And co-exporting means we want to be in the team with producers, helping them promote their farms, promote their coffees, and find great relationships for their coffees in specialty coffee roasters that are willing to pay a little bit more for this work that they are doing, that they are willing to invest on a relationship with a producer, helping them and understanding their challenges. And the company has grown from there, basically from 1 person to 32 today. And we are now a company that owns specialty coffee mills and owns a processing center when we help producers also process their cherries and get better production or better quality for their coffee that they are farming on their farms. So it's a route that has been well received by the marketplace and have been very well received by producers by just working with them as partners and helping them feel more empowered about their work and the coffee that they produce and the job they do.
Thank you, Vicente. I really like the term that you kept emphasizing, the partnership. I think it is absolutely the right angle to look at it. It's not that top-down approach, but we are really seeing the coffee producers a very fair and equal lens. And I think, your journey with LE Coffee has also been a very beautiful partnership that started in 2016. So Ricardo, if you can also share with us what LE Coffee is about, and how did you also start working at Clearpath since 2016?
Yeah, so Ally Coffee is an importing company. So as you know, Vicente is an exporting, Clearpath is an exporting company. Ally is an importing company. We try to bridge that gap between the coffee producers to the roasters being in the consuming countries with our offices, as well as in the producing countries. Ally Coffee is a company that is part of the Monte Santo Tavares Group, which is a family-owned company with a few investments from a Canadian pension fund as well, based in, out of Brazil, with roots in Brazil, but offices in Brazil, Colombia, Central America, Ethiopia, on the origin side, and then on the sales side and commercial side, being closer to the roasters in the US, Dubai, Sweden, Switzerland, and recently opening an office in Australia as well. So the goal here is, like Vicente said, is similar to Clearpath, is to really help producers to find an outlet and a place to actually showcase their hard work, their coffees that they're producing, right? And as a group, we buy and sell around 3 million bags of coffee. Ally does about 500,000 bags in total. And we not only work in Colombia, but we also work in Brazil and different other producing countries as well. But again, really trying to find a way to positively impact the lives of producers at origin as well, building this bridge so they can actually showcase their coffees to the consuming countries and the consumers all over the world.
No, absolutely. And I'm just quite curious, there's still quite a lot of, let's just say, some number of, specialty coffee exporting companies out there in Colombia. What was about Clearpath that made you realize, I gotta work with these guys?
That's a great question. So it is love at first sight type of deal. We met Vicente Rodrigo Sanchez, which is a producer that works closely with Vicente as well, who's a friend of ours. We met him in 2016 through a need that they had for an importing partner for the business. And we got to talk to them on the phone the first time, and then they came over for a visit. And then I went down for a visit. And the more we met, it seemed like we were friends for many, many years. And the common purpose and the common goal and the vision for the businesses were very aligned. And that made things even easier, not only just the relationship we built as friends, but also the business relationship was hand in hand and had the same mindset and same purpose. So it was really awesome to be able to join forces with them. And it's been 7 years now, 5 years. I'm doing my math wrong, but 6 years. And we're very excited to continue to working with them, supporting their efforts in Colombia, and hope that we can continue to grow and impact positively many more producers' lives through the work that Clearpath does in Colombia as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the shared passion and then the mission drivenness definitely bonded you guys together. As a matter of fact, I also had an opportunity to taste the Rodrigo's coffee. I actually have it right next to me. This has also been my morning coffee here and there. I know I try to keep them fresh, so I try to consume it as much as possible, as fast as possible. Then I think, I think a lot of us probably might be wondering, we threw the word specialty coffee here and there already. What exactly is a specialty coffee? How do you define it? And we kind of consider specialty coffee very special. What is so special about it?
Okay, so specialty coffee, as in the wine industry that is better known, they have sommeliers and they are rating coffees. In coffees, we have also a coffee tasters, professional coffee tasters that can rate coffees on their complexity, on how good the flavor and how good the quality of the beverage is. So there is a standard of a score, and they score several items. They score sweetness, acidity, balance, and the overall complexity of the beverage. So when a coffee is given 80 points or more, it's considered to be specialty. And then I would like to add a little bit more, like it is more special, or it really is special when it has a little bit more of traceability. So like if you know where is it coming from, if it has the name of the producer or the farm, if it has a little bit of that origin in it, it adds a lot to that idea of a specialty, and like the just to know where this is coming from and who is behind that work.
No, absolutely. I think that's so beautiful. And I just wonder, I mean, because you mentioned the sommelier, and they have very different unique techniques to taste the coffee. How do coffee tasters taste coffee? Anything we can also learn from? How do we practice that at home?
So, yeah, I think that well, to practice at home, I think trying different coffees is the best idea. Like if you can go to a coffee shop and then one day you try a Colombian, and then another day you try Brazil, another day you try Kenya, all that helps you create some ideas of like what is different. Also, if you get interested in it, if the package says it, or the people selling it can tell you a little bit more about it, there are different processing ways that the producers do in their farms, or different countries do. So there's washed coffees, and these usually have more clear, clean taste, less fruit in it. And then there is other coffees that are processed in natural way, that is drying the coffee cherry with the whole fruit around it. And that creates a little bit of a flavor of fruits and a little bit of flavor of winey. So it's interesting also to explore those different kind of processings. Like if you're mindful on what you're drinking, and if you get a little bit more interested on what you're buying from the store, you can actually start telling the difference and identifying more flavors or more things that you can try at home, or like just learn about it by yourself.
Absolutely. So now that we know specialty coffee is extremely special, I would like to then understand, why do both Clearpath and Allied Coffee focus on specialty coffee? I think it's quite a straightforward answer, but still want to hear from you. Why did you go through the specialty coffee route?
Well, I don't know if Ricardo wants to also answer this, but on our side, it is way more exciting for us than the commodity grade coffee, because on the commodity you don't really you cannot really go all the way to telling where is this coffee coming from, or like meet the persons behind it. It is usually just large quantities where the work of the producer, or maybe where the coffee is coming from, is not that interesting or not that important anymore. It's more about just a basic quality and the price. So we really like working with people. We want to work, as I said in the beginning, we want to be partners with the producers. We want to see what are the challenges in their farms. We want to tell that story, and we want to promote that story or that family with roasters and with importers all over the world. So it's I think the specialty coffee is also more people focused, and you can be closer to the producer. That's what really makes it more interesting and more exciting for us.
Just to complement what Vicente is saying, or just to go along with what Vicente is saying, is, it's a relationship-based trade when we talk about specialty coffee, because you develop relationships with who is growing the coffee, who is buying the coffee, who is drinking the coffee. My specialty coffee is special because the way that they prepare it, the way that they take care of it, it's always special, right? They harvest in a different way. They post-harvest, they use post-harvest techniques in a different way, right? And then when they do those things, that will add value to the product. That's why we like to focus on specialty coffee, because we can bring more value to everyone that is involved in the whole transaction. It's not just like a commodity transaction that I'm looking at a screen and I'm trading paper, or I'm just not touching the physical, and I'm just like making decisions on like, oh, what's the market movement now? It's up or down. I'm going to make it actually a buy or a sell, but on paper alone. No, specialty coffee, we touch the physical product. We touch, we understand the struggles and the difficulties of everyone that is involved in the chain. It's more fun. It's more rewarding. It's more everything. You get to really develop a relationship with producers and roasters and everybody in between in a deeper meaning, right? It's not just like a transaction. It's more about creating value for the whole chain.
No, I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I think there also a follow-up question, I think Bongani also asked this question, which is, why does the origin matter so much in coffee? And how does also determine the level of quality within the coffee? And then I think the follow-up question that I also want to ask is, if you can describe a little bit of the big characteristics of the Colombian coffee or other coffee that we can also just generally consume by consumers.
Okay, perfect. So the origin is everything in coffee, because the environmental offer that producers have in their farms creates a frame on what they can do with the coffee and what the quality of the product is as well. So farms with higher elevation, they will have maybe cooler climate during the night, and that will create a concentrations of sugars in the cherries, or a ripening of the cherry that is going to be slower than farms that are maybe lower in altitude and have a warmer climate. And also how the sun is facing the mountain. So like if the producer is in the side of the mountain where the sun comes up in the morning or in the afternoon, all that changes the biology of the plant and how the plant is ripening and producing the cherries. So that's affecting the quality of the bean and the agricultural offer that the producer has. And then it also affects what the producer can do with the coffee once it's harvested. Once the coffee is a fruit, it's a cherry with 2 little seeds inside. And then the producer needs to ferment that coffee and dry that coffee to be then able to sell it and to produce a product that can be then roasted. So if a farm, or if, for example, a whole country like Colombia has all these environmental offerings of lots of rain and moisture, it is really hard for the producers to dry the coffee with the whole fruit attached to it. So that's why Colombia is now well known for washed coffees. Producers have to ferment the coffee, wash it, clear out this fruit, extra fruit or compounds around the seed, and then just dry the parchment that is just the seed with a little bit of a skin around it. That is way easier to dry on the farm with lots of rain or with lots of moisture. But other countries, maybe like Brazil, they have a more very stable seasons. They can produce naturals easier because it's easier to dry it, and maybe they don't have as much rainfall, they don't much of us water. So it's how environment affects the seed, how environment affects the plant, but also how it creates opportunities or challenges for the producers on how they have to process their coffee. So I think Colombia, for what I just said, is world known for arabica variety. Also, there is a arabica variety of coffee. It's more it's a little bit more sweet. It's a little bit more easier to drink, or less harsh than Robusta. That is the other variety of coffee that we have in the world. And Colombia is well known for washed coffees or washed processes. So again, it's a coffee that is easy to drink, that is good for blending, that everyone can drink in the mornings, and the very, very just welcoming coffee. That's what Colombia is known for, and that's a little bit of because of the weather and because of the challenges that producers have here for washing the coffee. And I'll let Ricardo speak a little bit more about other origins in the world that he's an expert in.
No, I agree that, everything that you said, most of those things also translate to other origins as well, right? Yeah, that's why, origin is so important. And also not just the terroir that we talk about, that specific region or that specific farm and that specific soil or how much sun and how much rain and all of that. But, there's like elements in nature, it's in specific parts of the world that is unique to that specific part. So that's what we call terroir. And sometimes that is translated to how the coffee is produced, how the coffee, is post-harvested and dried and all of that. So it creates its own characteristics for that specific country and that specific region, sometimes within the country, right? And that's all, impactful. Also the traceability, like coming where it comes from, am I separating every single lot that I harvest? If I'm separating them, what is the unique traits of every single one of those lots that I harvested from my farm, and analyzing those things. I like to say that every coffee has its own identity, and it's up to us that are drinking or that are buying, that are tasting, to identify what's the identity of that one specific coffee. Some farms, they have been able to manage to replicate that year after year with post-harvest techniques or methods, and done really well. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of coffee. You can actually treat the product in such a special way that you can actually repeat greatness in terms of quality year after year. You're very consistent in the process or the post-harvest methods, right? But origin. I say this: without producers, we wouldn't be here today talking about coffee, right? And that's why we need to be focusing and then putting our efforts in supporting origin, supporting producers, because without them, there is no coffee. Without them, there is no coffee industry. Without them, there's no V60, there is no Chemex, there is no espresso machines, because all it starts at the origin with producers, right? And that's our purpose here, is to open opportunities that move coffee forward. This is actually Ally's tagline or purpose behind, but is the same as Clearpath, looking for ways to provide platforms and opportunities for producers at origin to showcase their hard work and be rewarded for it properly, right?
No, absolutely. I think the partnership, creating value, I think working together is definitely the key tagline there. And I think, so YSV itself has provided the financial support to Clearpath since 2020. And we always say Clearpath had a really amazing rapid growth. And I think if I look at Ally Coffee too, they're also opening a new office in Australia. So, very good growth that we're seeing in both two countries, two companies. But I'm wondering, what are some of the challenges that you're currently going through? So that's at the company level. Also like to understand, you mentioned quite a lot about creating the value. What exactly are we missing that we need to keep on emphasizing on the creating the value for the smaller farmers?
I think that number one, in terms of creating more value for the client or for the farmers, is actually educating the consumers that the need of having to pay more for their higher quality coffees or for their quality coffees. Otherwise, there is no positive impact. We're looking at what you're asking, what are the challenges we're facing? We're facing logistical challenges. Since 2020, since the pandemic, there's a shortage of containers, there's a shortage of ships doing the same routes. There is a cost increase on those. Used to be $2,000, for example, to bring a container from Colombia to the US. Nowadays, it's sometimes $8,000. It was same $2,000 to bring a container from Brazil to the US. Now it's $10,000, $11,000. So all of that is adding cost, is adding more challenges to the transaction, to the coffee business. But it doesn't translate. It's getting cost to you. The cup of coffee is getting costlier to you at the coffee shop, but that doesn't translate back to the producer, because the cost of production is higher. Fertilizer is more expensive. Labor is more expensive. Everything is more expensive. So when you look at it, you're paying more for coffee, for the cup of coffee or for a bag of coffee at the store, but that does not translate to what the producer is making, the extent to the producer is making. So the realization of that is educating the consumers about that and those challenges is our duty, our task. Those that are involved in coffee, education is part of our daily lives, right? So if we can get the consumers to understand, listen, it's more expensive. There's a reason why it's more expensive. And also, what is the real positive impact this is causing at the producers that is growing this coffee that you're drinking, right? That is the key. Now, also, I think that the biggest challenge and the biggest thing that we can do is really help producers understand what is their cost of production. How can we help producers to understand the real cost of production so they know exactly how much money they are making, right? I was invited to speak at a conference in Medellin this year, talking about, how we can utilize, technology to provide insights to producers so they can actually have sustainable business moving forward. But the one thing is, like, a lot of producers we work with, you can ask Vicente, and Vicente can share the same thoughts, but they don't really understand what is their cost of production, how much it costs them to produce coffee. So if they don't understand how much, and again, there are huge producers in Brazil that produces a lot of coffee that they don't understand. They don't have a grasp of how much it really costs per pound, to produce that coffee. So I think if we can help producers to really understand what is the cost of production, understand what is the margin that they need to make, right? So they can actually have a sustainable business moving forward, is the biggest challenge we have. And we are spending a lot of time and effort to be able to find mechanisms to help producers to actually understand what their costs are. And it is a responsibility for all of us that is in the coffee industry, not just like exporters, importers, roasters, consumers, but it's great to talk to people that understand money and understand how little, how much, any, the dial moving over here and over there can impact the bottom line, and then challenge, the financial institutions as well that work with coffee and coffee companies to join forces with us to actually find ways to create mechanisms for producers to be able to be sustainable business-wise for the long run.
No, I think if I just summarize what you said, I don't know if I can put it in a more beautiful way than you already have. I think at the producers level, smallholder farmers level, we need to help them to understand the cost of the production so that they can really understand the margins they're going to get. I think at the consumers level, we also need to be more willing to pay. I think that my question is, how should I change the mindset? Because right now, if you ask me, I look at coffee, let's just say, I will calculate based on the cup of coffee. So my mindset, I'm spending $3 here, $3 there. Should I be then looking at, what is exactly the benefit the smallholder farmers will get from the $3? What will be some of the ways for me to really change the mindset to also create the value while I consume the coffee?
Well, number one, there's a lot of coffee out there. Just traceability is one of them. If you go to a place and they don't tell where the coffee came from, you already know that, you have no clue if that producer got paid any fair price for the coffee that you're drinking. That's to begin, because traceability is like the thermometer, I guess, for like, is this a specialty coffee or not? Is this coffee paid well or not? That's, and we cannot generalize it, but if I go to a coffee shop and I go in here and I ask for a cup of coffee and I ask them what coffee you're serving as a consumer, and they tell me, this coffee is from this farm that came from this region, this is the producer name, I tend to feel like, okay, this guy got actually paid a little bit better than the coffee that I'm drinking at a gas station that I have no idea where it came from, right? That's number one. That's an easy one. So if people start like you, for example, right? You went to Colombia, you came back and you got home and you start like investing all this money on a V60 and buying a bag of coffee from a farm that you actually know and all of that. So we need to create more opportunities for the consumers to really understand, right? People want to know where their clothing came from. They want to know where their food came from, where their wine came from, where their olive oil came from, chocolate, cocoa, where it came from. Coffee is just another product that we need to be kind of pushing, the envelope and saying, this is what we need to know as well about coffee and where it's coming from. There is a company called Arabica, I believe, here in the US. It's a chocolate company. And in the packaging, they have, for example, the price of the market price for cocoa, and then they have the price that they paid for the producer and the margins they're making. There's also this transparency push that consumers are demanding retailers and companies out there, and wanting to know, every player in the chain, how much money they make through the process, right? I think it's something that it's very beneficial, and it's very useful. And we need to push that more and more, but people also need to understand that every single one of those players in the chain bring in a value and they need to be awarded properly for the work that they do, right? But I think going back to the consumers is, first of all, trying to educate them. Like if I come into a coffee shop, if I'm buying a bag of coffee, where is this coming from? If I go into a major grocery and I just see, oh, this is a Brazil. Well, Brazil is a huge country. Brazil has like 20 different growing regions within Brazil, or Colombia for that matter, 14, 16 different growing regions. And those regions have micro regions within them, right? So if I go to a grocery store and I say, oh, this is a Colombian coffee, 100% arabica Colombian. What does that mean to me? I just know that it came from this country, but where it came from within that country, where does this coffee come from, right? So just the traceability or understanding where it comes from is already very important to the mindset of consumers. If they actually understand that it's important to know where it came from, then the other steps that need to come after that is easier for them to understand.
Yeah, agreed. I wanted to compliment Ricardo on a little bit of what we have been seeing on the markets and with the specialty coffee, and what consumers can do is actually just learning about coffee and learning how to drink better coffee. I think that will change a lot, this whole narrative and the whole idea behind coffee. Like if people just drink, this is an energy drink or something that they just drink in the morning to wake up, that's good. That's a purpose of coffee, and that's something that you can do. But if people get a little bit more mindful on what they are drinking, understand that there is a complexity in this beverage, that there are different qualities, and they are just get interested a little bit on this traceability that Ricardo is mentioning, they are going to step up a little bit on what they drink. And when they step up a little bit on what they drink and they understand better the industry, then we're going to have a lot more consumers willing to pay maybe 50 cents more. It doesn't have to be a lot, maybe $1 more for a cup of coffee. And that creates a huge change in the industry. And maybe not just buying these big brands of commodity grade, the cheapest you can find in the supermarket, but buying it from a local roaster, from a smaller supplier that really knows where the coffee is coming from. These roasters are doing a great job on coming to Colombia, coming to Brazil, going to Africa, going to Kenya and Ethiopia to find the producers, to find the cooperatives, organizations that are doing a good job, and they are producing better coffees. And that just changes the whole the whole industry, the whole way of people consuming coffee. So I think that's key. If the end consumer gets a little bit more educated on quality, on coffee, and gets interested on drinking something better, that is not just better because it's better on taste, on the experience, but it's also healthier. Once you start learning about what all these very dark roasted coffees and all these blended coffees have inside, it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to drink that. You want to drink something that is a product that has good traceability, that has good quality, that has a level of roast that is also good for you. So it's not just experience, but it's also a health issue, or like just taking care of yourself. And there is a lot to be done with the producers in that regard, or with the consumers in that regard.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I can definitely testify to that experience part, because I was lucky enough to have a tasting session with Vicente at Clearpath. And ever since then, I really, really just completely changed the way I drink coffee. Not to say one method is better than others, but I used to just put the mocha pot there, forget about it. I hear the sound and I run. I'm like, oh, it's actually kind of burnt, but I will just drink it because I just needed caffeine. But I think the mentality, the mindset of just needing caffeine to actually tasting different flavors, thanks to Vicente, that took place. And I actually have a lot of different equipment at home. I really thoroughly enjoy the experiences. I think for consumers who don't necessarily get to travel to different countries to do that in-person tasting sessions, whatnot. I know LI Coffee already also has some online courses there. You can learn more. But what other resources that people can use? I think Ricardo already started posting different things, but also like to hear from you. Where should we start to learn more about coffee and how to drink coffee? Any good YouTubers that you want to recommend? Anything that we should know about?
There is several different resources. Ally Open is a platform for smaller or like startup roasting companies where we have like different courses, and we also have like for by the way, we have a lot of consumers actually taking those courses as well. We have a blog section on the Ally Open, which I shared the link here. And in there we have a lot of information about the market, what's happening in specific countries and origins. Why why is the price being so high or so low? What is impacting? How is logistics impacting the cost and things like that? So there's a lot of resources there to read. Also, I shared a link with of the SCA, the Specialty Coffee Association, where they also have information and details of courses, where you can take courses, how you can take courses. I also recommend attending, now that we are almost back to normal, attending a trade show, a coffee trade show in a respective area or country. There's always a lot to learn, a lot to see new products, see people talking about different brewing methods. Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there. It's just gotta Google it. Barista Hustle, I believe, is another one that has an incredible platform as well for education. And it's almost like a master class situation where you buy the course and you can go through this master class of how to brew coffee or how to taste coffee and so forth. Lots of good resources out there.
I think also a good idea is, again, support the local roaster, the local coffee shop. Many of them have coffee tastings, or they will be willing to tell you more about it. So like, if there is a coffee shop or a local roaster that you know or that you like or have you seen, and you wanna like ask them if they are having a coffee tasting, ask them if they can teach you a little bit more about tasting coffee, or like which origins they are roasting, what are the profiles on the coffee. That's great, and that's I emphasize that a lot, because that's our client, that's the people that is in contact with the final consumer mostly. We are here working with the producers, but then the local coffee shop, the small roaster in the neighborhood, is the one that has that final connection with the consumer. And most of them have this vision of also, and this mission of educating the final consumer, sharing this knowledge and sharing all this work that they are doing and the effort they are doing to source good quality coffees and to source great beans for their stores, for their roasteries. So I think, yeah, supporting those small businesses, supporting those small roasters is also really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm not sure. I can also share one of the YouTubers that I follow quite often for the coffee. I think his name is James Hoffman. He also will teach you about different techniques and whatnot. But for you to know, yeah, it's I think he teaches you more the technique side. But if you also want to taste, you have to run into a coffee shop for sure. I think also wanted to quickly ask one question. So I think we're working with the assumption that if people understand better about the coffee, people understand the value of the traceability, then global demand for specialty coffee will go up. Then I also want to understand, like, so are we only tackling, like, just like creating the value for smallholder farmers from the volumes game? So if we buy more, they get to increase their revenue, or are there any other angles for us to also create more value for our partners, farmers who are producing the beans? It's quite a tough question, but I also wanted to throw it out there to both of you guys to see any exciting projects that you're also working on to create more value for our partners, coffee partners. Yeah.
I think that specialty coffee is an easy way in to actually support people doing good things. But I also tend to think that every single coffee bean that is produced, that is being brewed, there's a name, there's a family, there's someone that makes sure that that coffee was grown and is enjoyed, regardless the quality, right? So when you look at the whole entire world, there's 160, 150 million bags of coffee being produced. Nearly the same amount being consumed or a little less. And every single one of those beans, someone grew it. A family, a farmer, someone had to spend time to grow it, right? Unfortunately, sometimes the big companies are buying quality beans, but not awarding the real price for those coffees, right? So a lot of coffees are throwing in as a commodity. And when the truth of the matter is, this coffee is also are good coffees that should be paid better, right? So then it comes to the big companies. What is your purpose? What is your vision? How do you want to cause positive impact in the chain if you're not going to reward producers or farmers properly, right? The thing with the specialty coffee is the more you know about the coffee, tends to be more expensive for a reason. And we want also coffees that are, when you look at the whole scale of points, an 80-point coffee is actually considered a specialty coffee, right? How many coffees that are scoring 80 points and above are actually traded in the market? A lot of them, right? Do we want to change an industry? If we want to change the industry, we start paying better for the 80 points to 84-point coffees. And then we're really going to create a sustainable impact in the business of everybody growing coffee, right? That's one way of looking at it. Now, the 84 and above point coffees, those are the coffees that are fun. Those are the coffees that we want to work with. Those are the coffees that we know where it came from. Those are the coffees that you can taste the difference when you drink it, right? And those are being rewarded. Maybe not as well as it should, maybe we should be paying more still for them. But then there's like a huge volume of coffees from 80 to 84 being produced, and they're just being purchased and sold as commodity coffees, right? And that, I guarantee you, the producers are not seeing any benefits from any of the gains that the big companies are having by buying those coffees in the commodity market, right? So the point is, with Ally and the Monte Santo Tavares group, we sell a lot of coffee. And if you come to me and you say, where did this coffee come from? How much did you pay the producer? We have records of every single one of the coffees we purchased, right? And we can actually show that to our clients, right? The point is, what are you going to do with that information once I give it to you, right? And that's the big question mark. What are people doing with information when they buy those coffees? Do they really utilize that for good, or they just keep it in the dark so they know what's going on, but they don't actually do anything with it, right? So the biggest challenge is like, let's take a look at coffee and not just like specialty coffee. Specialty coffee is the minority of the volume that is produced. So the chances are that the smaller the impact we can cause in the industry, none of the less is very important, because this is a catalyst. This is where everything started. But let's not look down on the other coffees that are not technically super special or highly specialty, because that's the biggest volume. And when we can crack the code to actually really create a positive impact on this segment of coffees, then that's when we're going to cause like a lasting impact in the chain for good, right? We need to decommoditize coffee. That's a goal. Decommoditize coffee. Look at coffee for coffee. Every single coffee has a home. Every single coffee has someone that grew it. Every single coffee has a value. Is those coffees being awarded properly for what it is? That's the biggest question mark.
Yeah, and I'm feeling a lot of passion from both panelists here today, and I'm wondering, are there any exciting projects that you can share with us that you're working towards? Working on this two areas, like many areas that you already mentioned today. Any exciting projects that you can share with us?
Yes, but I can't say though, because it's on the works right now. But we definitely have some work on, especially on the cost of production, especially starting in Brazil, because we have stronger roots in Brazil. But those are mechanisms that we're trying to create that is definitely going to be able to be utilized in the other producing countries, in Colombia and so forth. I actually go to Brazil tomorrow, and I have 2 days of meetings in São Paulo, and those 2 days of meetings, they're definitely tied to potentially finding ways to be able to help help origin, help producers to be more efficient as well, and to the point where they can make a decision if they want to sell it or not sell the product based on their cost of production, based on their margins as well, right? If we can help them understand and know what is acceptable for them, because they have a family to take care, they have kids to go to school, we want to provide them opportunities. These people are people just like anybody else in the world, with the same needs and desires of going and traveling and having a nice piece of clothes, or drive a car, or even a motorcycle. There's a story of a producer that, worked for many years in coffee, and it wasn't until they started to work with Clearpath that he was able to buy his first car. So those are real people with real stories that, real positive impacts that, we can see through the work that Clearpath Ally is doing, right? And not to get into a rabbit hole here, but, going back to what you said, yeah, there are things that we work. I cannot disclose all the information right now, but we definitely, as much passion as we have, and I know Vicente is doing the same thing in Colombia with other, different things, we can't disclose until things get in place so we can share them properly, but we're definitely working on finding mechanisms and ways to really help origin producers.
Yeah, I know Ricardo is they are the Monte Santo Tavares group, and Ally Coffee has partners in Brazil, which are like some of the biggest exporters, and they work with millions and millions of bags. So like they have this big challenge on them, and they are doing great work on that. And one of the things that we are doing here in Colombia, maybe in a smaller level, but it has been part of the work that we have been doing with Jones, is helping producers with the challenge of adding value to their coffee, and adding value through post-harvesting processings. So there is one project that we are very proud of that is called El Puente, and this is a community processing center where producers can bring their freshly harvested cherries to a infrastructure, a location with a team of people that is trained, and with all these facilities and infrastructure for processing coffee, with all the technology and with all the infrastructure they really need to produce a higher grade quality coffees. So in this way, we are just helping producers take some of the risk of processing specialty coffees off. We're helping them finance all this processing that takes time, that takes resources, and we're helping them meet a market for these higher value coffees. So at the end, the producer is not having to invest a lot on their farm. He's learning about processing better coffees, and he's finding a market where he can sell his coffees for a better price. That's a project that we're very excited about, where we keep continue on building more capabilities on this place, on like processing coffees in a maybe higher standard, with maybe more complex fermentations, more detailed ways of drying the coffees, always reaching for higher quality and always reaching to impact a bigger number of families, and making this place open for producers to go and learn how to produce or process their coffee better, go and learn how to taste their coffee. Like, this is why buyers are paying more. This is because it tastes different, and taste your coffee for the first time. Many producers haven't tasted coffee ever. So working with this, we have, it's 214 families of producers that are delivered cherry in this place today. And this is the kind of projects that we are excited about right now, of helping very small farmers get into specialty coffee and adding value to the product that they are harvesting in their farms.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from the smallholder farmers' perspective, you also help them to increase their revenue and also to try to reduce their expenses. But I'm also quite curious, any other areas that we can also reduce the cost of doing businesses in the entire coffee value chain, and hence also lower the prices? Or am I asking for almost impossible?
I think there is a lot of inefficiencies in the specialty coffee. Specialty coffee has been done in a way where only micro lots and small lots of coffee are sold for a better price, and that's where Ricardo's proposal came in. There is ways of aggregating producers. So when you're working directly with producers, and producers only have 1 hectare, then the efficiency of that relationship is very small. You have to work with a cooperative. So like, if producers get associated, there is association, there is a cooperative, they build a little bit of infrastructure so they can have a warehouse. And then you're not just buying 1,000 kilograms of coffee from this farmer, but you're buying a full container from this association. That will help it make it so like the volume is bigger, the efficiency of the relationship is better. So I think just getting producers working together and making associations, making cooperatives is a good way of reducing that business, reducing that cost of doing business. I think that's one of the biggest ones that I can think of now.
Anything to add from your side, Ricardo? Or should I just think about paying more instead of trying to cut costs?
I think that is, when you talk about, there are efficiencies that can be pinpointed, and then producers can probably get help to decrease some of their costs of production. But if you don't know your cost of production, you don't even know where you can probably tackle, right? So let's go back to that. It's like almost like a cycle, right? If I understand my cost of production and where the biggest growth or like biggest cost increase are in me doing business, then I can probably see if there are alternatives and different things that I can do to decrease the cost, right? But the point is, I don't think that the point in actually helping producers to really understand their cost of production is not so they can decrease their cost. That could also be helpful, but it's for them to really understand, if I produce this many bags of coffee and it costs me $3 a pound and I'm selling it for $2, then I'm actually losing $1 per pound. There's no margin for me. And if I don't actually find ways to actually create a positive margin for me, I'm going to be out of business soon, right? And if we get producers to go out of business, then we're going to have less coffee being produced, right? Now, the way of looking at this is not how I can pay less, is how can I actually make producers make a solid, healthy margin, profit margin on their coffee being produced. That's what I need to look at, because I want this producer to be producing coffees for their lifetime, and then their kids doing the same after they die, and then their grandkids. I want this to be a sustainable business for generations to come, and not just for that one single farmer. Because what happens is, in a lot of producing countries, Brazil is an anomaly. Brazil, a lot of producers are they manage they found ways to decrease costs by creating new technology and machines, whatever it is, to help them advance in terms of cost of production, and it is a sustainable case, business case for a lot of producers in Brazil as a country. You don't find a lot of producers that are needy and they're starving, or because they found ways throughout the years to utilize technology and development in coffee production to actually help them be sustainable financially. But when you look in globally, if how many producers they have the same access, or they have the same understanding, they have they know what their cost of production is. The point is, we need to find ways to pay the producers better. Going back to what you said, just simple. I need to pay more for coffee, but to pay more for coffee, I do need to know certain things, right? How is this producer doing things? How is this, is it economically, is it environmental? Is it taking care of the land, taking care of the people, and taking care of, of the environment, being a good steward of the land that he has in his hands. But the goal is like, how can we create sustainability for the years to come? There is a huge, I was going back to say this, there's a huge disconnect between the people producing coffee and their kids and their grandkids. They don't see coffee farming as a way of living, because for so many years their grandparents and their parents struggle to make ends meet, right? So they don't want to be doing this. They want to go out. They want to go and study. They want to go. There's like this huge, massive exodus of like younger generations not wanting to carry on the tradition of the family because they don't see a way of living, right? We need to change that mindset. We need to show kids that it is sustainable for them to come and then help and carry on the legacy and carry on the traditions of the family by producing coffee, because it can be a sustainable business in the long run. And paying more is going to be what is going to be fundamental for that change of mindset for younger generations coming up. And of course, everybody's free to do whatever if they want to be an engineer, whatever it is. But if they want to actually be in coffee, they should be able to say, okay, I can do this, and I can have a living. I can build a family, and I can actually have food to eat, clothes to wear, and whatever it is, right? That I need. But we need to create this mechanism and find ways to really pay more for coffee and have consumers paying more for coffee. So it is, in the longer run, a sustainable business, and we do need our cup of coffee for generations to come, right?
Absolutely. I'm conscious of the time. Maybe just 2 questions to end this. It's going to be, number 1 is, what is the key message you want all the audience members to, let's just say, take away? What are the lessons learned they should have? 1 message. Number 2 is, if you can share how do you like your coffee, and let's just say coffee secret, any ratios, any mechanism, the brewing method. One thing maybe we can also love coffee more after this session.
Okay, I think the message will be, again, I get interested into the coffee that you're drinking. Where is it coming from? Who's the producer behind it? What was the processing? And that's a big part. I think if we all do that, that can help the producers a lot. Get interested and be more mindful of the coffee that you're drinking. That helps a lot. For coffee, I think, well, 1 tip that I can give everyone is buy whole beans. Do not buy ground coffee. Get a small grinder. It can be very simple machine. There are very cheap ones in the market, and start buying whole beans. And the reason for this is, I don't know, the same reason as ground meat. When you buy ground meat in a supermarket, you don't really know what is in there. How much fat did they put in it, like where is it coming from? But when you buy a piece of meat, like the quality, you can see what is it coming from on the animal, or where you're buying. Coffee is the same. When you buy ground coffee, the company that made it could have put in there all the defective beans with mold, broken, insect damage. They ground it all together, and then you don't know anymore. But when you buy whole beans, you can actually see the quality of the bean that was roasted. It is a bean that is it looks good, but it's roasted in a way that it's attractive, and it looks good quality. You can assess quality by just looking at a whole roasted bean, and then you grind it, and you're gonna have a way better experience than just grind it right before you brew it. I think that's number 1 tip, and it can actually change the whole experience that you have around drinking coffee.
Thank you, Vicente. And Ricardo?
I agree with Vicente. Start asking questions. Where is this coffee coming from? Who produced it? How was it produced? What kind of variety? What kind of method? Natural, washed. Controlled fermentation, cold fermentation. What happened here? In this coffee. Ask questions about it. Come to the coffee shop. Go to the grocery store. Ask those questions. Where your coffee comes from. That's the key there. That's going to be very helpful. Getting consumers mindset to be changed, which is changing rapidly. But I think we need to keep on pushing forward. And then method of drinking coffee. I lately came across this Japanese method called it's a dripper. It's called origami, and it's a fast brew method. I love it. I'm hooked to it, and in the last since I came back from Australia 2 weeks ago, that's all that I make myself. I make a pour over on the origami brewer dripper, and I love it.
Great, thank you so much. I thank you again for the 2 panelists to share their passion, and also let us know about the different mindset that we need to have, especially truly knowing where these coffee beans are from, who are the producers behind it, the source behind it, terroir behind it. Thanks again for sharing that the passion and some of the learnings that you had in your journey. Again, thank you all for all the questions that all the audience has given us. Any other further questions, do feel free to reach out to any of us. We're more than happy to share any other resources that we can. I think in an ending note, I think we can, let's just say through the session we have learned, we need to be willing to pay more. We need to know where these beans come from, who those producers are. And I think just really having more better experiences with the coffee so that I think that it's easier for us to spend more money, because it's not going to be money. It's going to be, actually, it's an experience that we're buying, not necessarily beans. I think that is probably the mindset we need to have as we leave the session. Thank you again for joining the session, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.